going to Dr. Alexander Averbakh, and I'm happy to present him now. He holds a PhD, welcome to you, in chemical process technology and equipment, as well as an MSc in optics and spectroscopy. Dr. Averbach's expertise spans across various scientific research fields, with notable contributions in designing laser Doppler anemometers for investigating turbulent flows, studying turbulent flows and mixing in static mixers, and exploring high concentrated suspension flows using laser Doppler anemometers. And if you now participating with all of us feel like, oh, wow, this is too turbulent, that's fine. We ride the waves here. The turbulent flows, we are keep on going and moving together in them. And as I keep introducing here our great presenter, Dr. Averbakh, his work also extends to the design of systems for measuring light scattering characteristics of high concentrated suspensions and water management in power plants. So additionally, Dr. Averbakh has made significant contributions to the improvement of equipment for various chemical processes, including mixing and thermo and mass transfer. With over 20 publications to his name, Dr. Averbach's research has garnered widespread recognition and admiration in the scientific community. His dedication to advancing our understanding of complex phenomena within chemical engineering and related disciplines is truly commendable. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Alexander Averbach's presentation with the title, "The Unification of Consciousness is the Path to Revealing True Reality." Please.
Спасибо большое, Йоахим, за такое представление.
Thank you very much for the introduction.
Мне хотелось бы поприветствовать всех присутствующих на конференции.
I want to welcome everybody present in the conference, and also to thank every organizer and everybody who made this conference possible.
Мы положим маленькое зернышко на чашу весов добра.
We will try to put a little seed on in the cup of goodness in this conference.
Название моего доклада «Объединение сознания. Путь к раскрытию истинной реальности».
So the topic is unity of consciousness, which is the way to revealing the true reality.
Сегодня мы являемся свидетелями.
Today we're witnessing the crisis, which we call global because it encompasses everything in our existence. And this is just few problems, the wars, conflicts, the instability of the nature, destruction of ecosystem, and there's a new threat to civilization. The specialists in AI are saying that this threat can overcome all the other threats. And it's specifically the actions of humans which led to the increase of this crisis. So we see the paradox throughout the whole history of civilization. We thought that the progress in technology and knowledge, in human achievements, will lead us to happiness, to happiness of all of the humanity, and promised us a new future. But today we see that specifically the progress of science and technology is now leading us to this heavy crisis that we see today. So on the one hand, the new technological abilities and our inability to use them correctly is leading us to this crisis. And we see it today. Throughout the whole history of civilization, there are people saying that the whole world is one whole. But since the development of science, we strayed away from that, and everybody was just doing his own specialty. But by the end of the 20th century, a lot of scientists also started saying that we live in a global world, that it's all one. So these are few thoughts of Geisenberg, that the world looks like a complex, interwovenness of events that cover one another, they combine, and thus they form a structure of the whole. And also Bohm was saying, in theory of relativity, in the quantum theory, we see that our fragmented picture of the world is incorrect, and it leads to many paradoxes. The reality is one, and it's uninterrupted, and it's a combination factor. So why is our perception fragmented? So each individuum is a fragment of a whole reality. And when this fragment relates to the whole reality that you can't divide, then his perception just in the existence of fragmenting, it distorts the reality. And today, the biggest problem today of the crisis is the traditional paradigm that depends on each individual seeing the reality as his own. And today it's outliving itself. So we will try to touch this topic. What is the fundamental knowledge? One of the researchers of consciousness, David Chalmers, he said, consciousness is fundamental aspect of our existence. We're not dealing with anything closer than that. And at the same time, it's an enigma, it's a phenomenon of the universe. So consciousness, every school of thought thinks about it differently. Everybody has their own so uniting the not uniting the feelings and the intellect forms a reality for us. And today there are several scientists that think that consciousness is a fundamental quality of the universe, that it's first. We want to illustrate here that we'll touch upon one paradox. When the humanity began to examine the nature, they realized that the reality of nature is separate from what we perceive in our consciousness. In particular, one of the laws of quantum mechanics says about superpositions. So if there's an electron, a particle, it behaves in such a way that it can exist in many places in universe. It could actually be a cloud that is much bigger than the size of the particle. And let's say the electron exists in every part of that cloud. But if we try to pinpoint its location, we discover only one point. So the possibility of all points come into one point of the position of the electron. So the picture is close to our consciousness. So there's a contradiction. What's correct? This paradox brought us to the fact that quantum mechanics can be contradicting. It's not complete. So there were suggestions of how to interpret quantum mechanics, and they were just trying to figure out how to deal with this paradox, with this contradiction of the reality of the quantum world. It was suggested that the whole problem is our intellect, that the consciousness of the observer is the problem. It was said that we exist in a certain world, we can examine it, expand our knowledge. But it turns out that the objective world that doesn't depend on us, it actually is an illusion.
Одной из распространенных интерпретаций, которые приняты многими сегодня, является
One of the common ideas
американского физика Хью Эверетта, который
is an idea of Everett that he suggested in 1957. He supposed that the reality of quantum reality is the true reality, but our consciousness splits it into several worlds. So our consciousness splits it into parallel universes, and each parallel universe reflects only one point, but altogether they form the quantum reality. But each observer only observes his own universe. So there was a way to try to explain this contradiction, but his main interpretations that these macro universes, they correlate to each other. So it's impossible to test it. It's impossible to test this hypothesis, but it was accepted by majority of the scientific community. And if the hypothesis cannot be checked, then it cannot be scientific by definition. So the Moscow physics Mensky, he tried to upgrade this hypothesis, and he went a little farther. He said that the consciousness itself is the division of the alternate realities, and the consciousness of the observer is leading us to the wave function. Thus, individual consciousness not only paints the picture of reality, but also hides the biggest part of the true reality. Then he suggested that if we can disconnect from consciousness, but a person stays feeling the reality, let's say while sleeping, then during that we can see the true reality. So here we have to step aside and form this consciousness. So this consciousness is the evolution of the everyday experience, and it can be in several different experiences of reality. So we can feel ourselves in different points of space and in different points of time. Then we can experience intuition, clairvoyance, and we see a lot of these. And we see that a lot of them actually exist in reality. Some of the scientists that discovered something said that they specifically felt this point of consciousness, like intuitively, and a person gets access to something hidden when they experience these points of consciousness. And these feelings of intuition or trance, we see that they were happening historically throughout the whole history of humanity. And some people develop certain techniques to bring on these conditions. We see it in different places of the world, how people in Sufism, Tibet medicine, Buddhism, people practice these techniques.
Но особое место здесь занимает метод объединения сознания.
So a special place in this takes the uniting of consciousness. And it happens by expanding consciousness. to go into different parts of reality. So one of the people who studied it was Schrödinger, and he said, does one whole real world exist, and how do we get in there? So we see a paradox in there, that there are many individuals, each has its own individual perception of reality, but the world is one. So the consciousness never, you never feel it in plurality, but only in singularity. And there's only one alternative, that in reality, there is only one consciousness. David Bohm also said about the true consciousness, that it's only one. The individual consciousness divides the whole into fragments, and everybody sees firstly only himself and his interests, and the conflicts happen because the conflicts that are the epitome of the bad, and the wars doesn't allow us to unite into one whole harmonic world. And the people who try to unite into this world, they are able to form true human relationships. And to summarize, in one consciousness, in individual consciousness, we see fragmented universe. In united consciousness, the people see a more whole reality. In united consciousness of humanity, we will open the true reality, and we will see a human superorganism that will be the united humanity. But there has to be a correct unity, not any unity. Only if the goal of the unity is to bring the whole structure into one, then the humanity will form the superorganism. The other goals will bring to an opposite result. Here we can get closer to the new paradigm. According to Everett, this condition of humanity we can call multi-consciousness universe. And the practice of uniting consciousness is described in the ancient stuff. So the main principles are very simple. The whole cares about each individual part, and each individual part cares about the whole. And that integral paradigm is a true paradigm, because it's the only integrated system. In the integrated system, the events that bring on the crisis, they will disappear, and that will be the true integral system. Like in the healthy organism, not one part of the organism wants to harm the other parts if everything works correctly.
Вот мы сегодня приходим к ситуации, когда, с одной стороны, развивается кризис, который грозит существованию
We come
нашему.
to a situation where on the one hand, we see crisis developing, but on the other hand, we see the exit out of the situation. So what we need to do is form this one superorganism of humanity, and it seems like any other alternative decision will bring us to an opposite result. We have to admit that today, in different parts of the planet, there are many different groups of like-minded people, but for now, they are within themselves, and there's not many of them. There's not enough of them to form this one whole humanity. But the development of the crisis will lead us towards that goal. And we will see that there's another interpretation of the word crisis, which is a situation that leads to rebirth. So we have this opportunity to go from crisis to rebirth, but the main thing is not to be late. So if we don't do it, then we will be the cause of this crisis. And I wanted to finish with the quote of a famous blogger, Karelov, who says, "The nearest future will show, are we ready to wake up, or we keep sleeping, and even though we have an alarm sounding, but we keep on sleeping." Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So let's wake up all together here. Thank you so much for your inspiring presentation. And I see, wow, we have 2 questions here. So let's hear them, please, Gary Notkin.
Спасибо, Александр.
Thank you, Alexander. Very deep questions were raised, and we were talking about crisis and what awaits humanity. But I have a question about the crisis. How can we talk about unity today when we see the world where there's hatred, there's division, wars? After 80 years of this horrible war, we see that the evil is awakening. And how do you understand that in this situation we can, in not only crisis, but everything's falling apart? How can we come to this unity and I understand the question. Obviously, we can't cover everything in this small, short period of time, but your question still lies in the plane of fragmented consciousness, because our consciousness paints this picture for us that we see today, and even that is the cause of all the problems that we see. It's the basis for how we relate to the reality, and the whole hidden the whole nature is hidden from us by our intellect, by our consciousness. We can unite into big groups. The humanity is designed that way. We heard yesterday how this whole system is complex, and but the groups that unite based on their egoistic goals, they only make it worse. So they do it on the level of individual, and that's what brings on the crisis. The unity that we talk about is different, and it's based on the hidden qualities that nature put into us. And I discovered in my own experience, and the groups that unite based on trying to form this one superorganism, we see that they are succeeding. And so those who try to come to unity, they change, they start to change. And the thing is, you have to use the right technique. And of course, we can't cover all of that today, but this is how I see the answer to your question.
Spasibo Bolshoi, thank you so much. I'm aware of time here, and I'm aware of the interest. So let's be really concise here now, and we would love to hear the question of Dr. Pines also. So let's be really concise and listen attentively. Please, Dr. Pines.
Okay, I'll try to do this as quickly as I can. And thank you. I want to thank Alex for his very thought-provoking presentation. And on that, I have three thoughts. I want to, if he could link them, if they make sense. One is Roger Penrose for years has pointed out that if the consciousness is quantum-based, it overruns the Gödel limit, which digital systems as AI is essentially are limited by. Secondly, that does he see the consciousness as also the eureka phenomena, this ability to put an entire whole system together of that, all these different worlds that one reaches out to, like a quantum computer would, okay, and collapses into one, the answer, or very close to the answer. And three, finally, the similarity of form in thought. We know that quantum, the entanglement idea, if people are in the round table, whatever, are able to reach that similarity of mutual unity, that would connect those things as neurons, as it were. And that one could therefore, entire systems grow up, beat AI, and actually hold it on a leash to go safely into the future with. I know it's a lot to put it together, but if that makes sense to you and how you would see that.
Ну, очевидно, были там небольшие трудности с переводом. Возможно, я не понял весь вопрос.
Some difficulties with translation. Maybe I didn't understand the whole question. But I'm familiar with Dr. Penrose's statements and his understanding of the quantum mechanics, of the way the brain works and consciousness. And the thing is, the mechanism can have some basis, but I did not see that he talked about specific techniques of uniting the consciousness. So we have to learn how to unite consciousness based on the inner structure of our nature, of our ego or our desire. And for now, it's against the unity. But if we keep studying the existing techniques that work, I think it's going to be very difficult for us. Maybe Dr. Penrose had something about it, but I never saw anything, any description of him describing how to exit this situation.
Thank you so much. So we need to be able to honor the different approaches and to find a way to connect them. Thank you so much, Alexander Averbakh. Thank you for this presentation. And